Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan of Total Retail, and I am joined today by Shrenik Sadalgi, who is the Director of R&D at Wayfair, as well as the Chair of the 3D Commerce Working Group. We're going to be talking to Shrenik today a little bit about how Wayfair is using 3D content. So thanks for joining me, Shrenik.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
So let's get started by having you talk a little bit about why 3D content, in your eyes, has yet to see widespread adoption among consumers and retailers. As I mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about Wayfair's use of it, but so far it hasn't seemed to gain widespread adoption. Any thoughts on why?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. So I think there are a few problems, right? So let's start from, on the content production side. So if you think of content production and content consumptions as as a supply chain of sorts, somebody's got to take that first step to either establish these experiences online without having enough content, or on the other hand, you have to figure out how to produce this content without having a way to actually distribute it, right? If I'm making sense. So there's a little bit of that chicken and egg problem. Like, who's going to should the retailers produce the content first, or should the technology platforms produce the experiences first? Right. So I think there's a bit of if that does not happen in sync, then you're gonna have a problem, and that's true with every emerging technology for that matter, right? So I think this 3D content or 3D technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, or extended reality, they fall into that emerging technologies bucket, and there's going to be a push that's needed by some first adopters to make it more widespread, right? On the consumer end, there's a separate problem, which is that people are not used to interacting with 3D content on a 2D device, right? So think of like a view in room experience, right? You're looking at this piece of furniture that's in your room, but it's on your phone and it's virtual. But how do you interact with it? Because you don't even know if you can you move it around? Can you walk around it? Is it the right scale? How do I trust the technology, right? So I think there's a little bit of that user experience and a little bit of that curve or a little bit of a hump that we need to get over. Where if retailers kind of produce these really easy ways to consume this content, I think you'll see that a lot of consumers will start expecting it, right? So it's almost like like how today you expect an image when you're trying to sell a product, right? You're not going to buy a product if it doesn't have reviews, if you can't see images, you don't have description, right? So just like that, I think it's going to take some time to figure out or to get to a point where consumers are almost like, hey, how come this thing does not have a view in room experience? So I think until we get to that point, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, I would say.
Yeah. And then continue on a line of where you see the consumer, with many of shoppers now frequenting online sites and less in store. It might be an opportunity for this technology to kind of grow and gain followers and users. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how you feel augmented reality and 3D technology might be able to be effectively leveraged by retailers at this time?
Yeah, for sure. So again, the circumstances that prevail today is truly testing it's a testing time for a lot of people in a lot of different ways, right? So especially for these type of technologies, I think it's a real I guess it's an interesting time because you're kind of forced to use these experiences at home, right? So it's so I guess there's a lot of validation that's happening, right? So I think that's kind of good for the experience, right? But even if we were not living in the circumstances that we're living in today, this is still a very powerful experience because you are kind of bringing the store to your home, right? Instead of trying to take multiple trips to the store or going to the store and kind of cross shop, traveling from store to store. You don't have to do all that stuff. You can just sit on your couch and pull up all the different experiences from different retailers and literally pull or see products in your space, sitting next to each other in your space, and you can kind of make a decision, right? So I think yeah, we'll get to a point where, I mean, imagine this scenario, right? Let me just paint a picture for you. You're sitting at home and you're shopping for a coffee table, right? And you search for coffee tables on your favorite search engine, and you see all these different results from different retailers, and all of them have this new in room experience, right? On your phone or on your desktop, wherever you're browsing your search results from, you can then view each coffee table in your space, and you can compare them side by side and make a decision, right? So that's kind of where I see us heading. I think that's where the industry is heading, and so I think that is going to become the norm, or that's going to become a way of shopping for furniture at home, apparel, anything that makes that needs some kind of context for shopping.
So as you
Yeah.
point out, Shrenik, that's where you see the industry heading. With that in mind, Wayfair has recently teamed with some other leading retailers, including IKEA and Target, to join the Khronos group on a collaboration on a set of guidelines for 3D, AR, and VR retail experiences. Do you want to tell us why Wayfair was interested in joining this initiative? And then second part of that is, what does the company hope to gain from its inclusion?
Yeah, for sure. I can tell you a little bit of the kind of the context or the background to that story. So, um, a few years ago, I guess when we started, I guess exploring 3D as a new medium for merchandising, we quickly realized that if you did not have a common definition for a virtual product, right, just like how you have a definition for a JPEG, or sorry, for an image, which is JPEG, right? You can use JPEGs to define what an image is, right? So it's kind of a format. So if we don't have things like that, specifications for a virtual product, you're going to get into trouble very quickly. You're not going to be able to, have your virtual products be used by other people, right? So what I mean by that, so to take the example of search results I was talking about earlier, right? If for the end consumer to visualize these products in a very consistent way, to be able to, let's say, switch through the different product options like colors and sizes and things like that, for them to see like metadata about a product, let's say the pricing or descriptions and things like that, you cannot power an experience on a third-party platform that has multiple virtual products that it's trying to show, so from different retailers and from different manufacturers. Because if you all can't agree on a common definition of the product, then there's no way somebody else can reproduce these experiences, right? So I think we quickly realized that, and we were kind of one of the founding members of this initiative, and we're hoping that we can one agree or create the definition of a virtual product, and also help people be able to produce content in a very easy way. And so I think we're basically doing what JPEG did to the imaging industry. We're just trying to do that with 3D, right? So and we're kind of retail is a primary use case for 3D. It's one of the drivers of the 3D industry today. So we're happy to be a part of the initiative to push the state of the art forward. It's not just like, I guess, Wayfair that's a part of this initiative. I think so I think what we did was we kind of zoomed out and took like a big picture view of the entire industry, right? Because it's this what we're trying to do with the 3D commerce group. It doesn't just impact retailers; it impacts the entire 3D industry. So I think if you think of the different, I guess, actors in this, take an example, supply chain of. I'm going to stick to my use case of earlier, where with the 3D search results, you've got to have like, say, a manufacturer or supplier of the products, right, who's kind of making the real products. That manufacturer probably has, is producing the 3D content for that specific product, and they're giving it to a retailer. And the retailer is kind of producing an experience out of using those virtual products, and then they're further distributing it to an advertising platform, for example. So, you've got suppliers, you've got retailers, you've got advertising platforms, you've got technology platforms, and you've got content creation tools like some of the people like Autodesk and 3ds, I guess, or Adobe. All of these different actors come together, and this initiative actually impacts all of these folks. So I think it's much larger than just the retailers. So I think that's kind of what we've set out to do. So the biggest challenge I feel over the last 2 years for me has been just bringing people together and actually I guess getting people into a room to just discuss the problem in the first place. And so that we did that last year, and now we're actually working on solutions. And I'm hoping by the time this podcast is released, we actually have different solutions that are published.
And that's why that collaboration with the Khronos group and the retailers that I mentioned is going to be such a powerful association.
Yep. So it's I think we're all pushing the state of the art forward, and so I'm really looking forward to what we can accomplish as this group. It's a very diverse. It's interesting how we have competitors working together to solve a problem, and so and that's happening. And so there's it's really it's amazing to see that. So I'm very excited.
So I want to get into in a little bit, talk a little bit about some of your partners in this initiative, specifically IKEA and Target. But let's first talk a little bit about Wayfair specifically and how you're already maybe using 3D content, as well as some other potential use cases. Is there an example or two, Shrenik, of something that maybe already in market, as well as something that you might be working on that you would care to mention?
Yeah, there's a lot of. So if you look at the underlying, I guess the underlying question is 3D is basically a medium through which you're merchandising your products, right? It's another medium apart from the images, apart from product descriptions and reviews and things like that. So I guess wherever you see a product online, we believe that it will also have an accompanying kind of 3D experience along with it, right? So think of search results, or you think of ads, right? Or you think of social posts. These are all, I guess, channels through which you can experience 3D content. And so we're Wayfair as a company that we're all working on producing the best customer experience, and we're taking advantage of all these channels to merchandise products in an effective way.
With any initiative, and this 3D use of 3D technology being no different, you're obviously going to establish some goals. What benefits can the business see as a result of implementing such a technology? So can you talk a little bit about kind of what Wayfair is looking at as it tracks the effectiveness of its use of 3D technology in the consumer shopping journey? Do you want to tell us a little about some of your tracking there?
Yeah, for sure. So so conversion rate is one thing that we obviously try to track, but I feel that that's the wrong metric to try to track. So I think a lot of people are kind of I guess making decisions based on conversion rates, right? I think the way we're looking at it is we're trying to see are we increasing engagement with with that specific product, right? So through this new experience or through this new medium, our users or customers thinking of the product in a different way. So I think engagement is a big metric that we're trying to track. And another take on this question would be, there's a causation versus correlation problem, right? I mean, it's kind of it's an ancient problem in the e-commerce industry. So it's very tough to figure out if this 3D content is actually making a difference in the customer, I guess in the funnel, right? So if we tracked engagement, we'd probably have you'd probably see if you track engagement, if tracking engagement is the right way is the right metric to measure. And I think what we're seeing is that customers are definitely engaging with these with products that have 3D models in a better way. We're also we also use 3D technologies in multiple ways. And so we can talk about that as a separate point.
Are you finding, Shrenik, differences in behavior and what you're seeing in terms of results on desktop versus mobile? Is one channel you're seeing more engagement than the other? It seemed to be that this tool might be a little more receptive to mobile users, but perhaps I'm wrong about that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of each of those channels?
Specifically to mobile, right? Since if you think of augmented reality, you're kind of taking advantage of the camera on the mobile phone, right? And so you are dependent on the mobile platform for that. And so there is no equivalent in desktop experience. So what we're working on is a desktop experience that we're kind of recreate the augmented reality, the view and room experience, but on desktop, right? And so that's not, we haven't released that to customers yet. But I think 3D has, we do have something called a 3D room planner. That's specifically a desktop experience, or primarily a desktop experience. And we're seeing, again, customers are kind of playing with it, building rooms and trying to lay out entire rooms and it's get an idea of how a set of products would look like in a space. So I feel that different platforms have different types of experiences, right? And what we try to do is we try to take advantage of the specific characteristics of that platform. So but I think for augmented reality, it's definitely mobile. That's the primary driver. But desktop offers a lot different kind of convenience, right?
Yeah.
So
some new opportunities in that.
It's kind of integrated. You think of I feel like you see that customers are hopping between all these different platforms and making a final decision on So I think the journey is it's a mix of all of these different platforms, I would say.
Yeah. And one of the things, and I alluded to this earlier in terms of the initiative that you've joined with the Khronos group, is that, retail is obviously a super competitive industry. And, I mentioned that part of this initiative includes IKEA, which I would imagine is a direct competitor of Wayfair. And then, to a lesser extent, maybe as a direct competitor, but still a competitor, I would imagine, is Target. Tell us a little bit about, were there any concerns about collaborating with companies like that in this initiative?
No, not at all. So the way I looked at it at least was, this is a problem that if we don't solve this, or we don't agree on, if we don't align on these standards, right, we're not going to be able to scale. And and what we're trying to do is we're trying to benefit the end customer. Right. I mean, we know that the customer has a choice between all these different, retailers or different kinds of products. We're not going to, we're not trying to build silos, build a specific experience that only has Wayfair products on it. Right. So I think we know that the customer has a choice, and we want to respect that. That's number one. But even just to solve this problem, you cannot do it without the help of the entire industry. It spans across not only retailers, it actually spans across different actors in the industry. So the manufacturing side of things, the supplier side of things, the 3D tools, the content creation tools, the final platforms the advertising platforms, or the search platforms, or the device makers. So it's actually it's not just retailers. It's a much bigger ecosystem, and we got to try to address the problem from all the different angles. So it is we were if we wanted to see, going back to the earlier question about we haven't seen the widespread adoption of 3D content, right? This is one of the reasons why, and I think we identified that this was one of the reasons for that was nobody agrees on what a definition of a 3D virtual product is, and without that, you're not going to be able to exchange content amongst these different, amongst these different actors. So for example, a supplier cannot give the retailer a 3D model. The retailer cannot give the 3D model to the publishing platform, right? If you don't have the definition of what a 3D model is.
So to your point, you can't work in isolation here. You need to be collaborative for the greater good, so that you establish standards, so that the technology is able to be optimized to its fullest. It makes a lot of sense.
So think of it, it's a new medium, right? So think of how the images have evolved over the years. If we didn't have the definition of, let's say, the JPEG, or the PNG for images, you wouldn't be able to take a picture today and actually have somebody else around the world, be able to see it, because you're not going to get, you're not going to be able to reach as many people as you would have if we had these kind of definitions in place.
And then my final question, Shrenik, is kind of looking forward a little bit. Tell us about the impact you see 3D content having on Wayfair's business. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about the short term, and then maybe a little bit down the road and what you see in the long term in terms of its impact.
So I usually try to split these use cases into just 3D use cases into two big buckets, right? One is on the practical side, and one is on the inspirational side. So on the practical side, there's lots of these kind of immersive 3D experiences or tools that you can build around 3D experiences to help customers decide what's best for them, right? But if you go up the funnel a little bit, you can try to inspire customers with the 3D experiences, right? It's not only merchandising a single product, it's merchandising your entire brand, right? So if you can create these really engaging experiences that are immersing consumers, and you're basically trying to take advantage of this kind of new richer medium, right? Because you think of how you interact with things in real life, right? I mean, it's 3D, right? So if you can kind of recreate that experience again at home or the convenience of your rooms, then what's better than that, right? So I think so we produce a lot of imagery with 3D content. So we produce very rich imagery that showcases the product in the right setting. So we create these, lifestyle images that are that serve as inspiration for the larger brand. And as you kind of go down the funnel and you kind of try to decide what products you want to finally buy, there's all these tools that are built around that use virtual products to help you make that decision. So I think the impact is pretty significant, because especially for Wayfair, and especially for, generally, I think online retail, it's a very visual category, right? I mean, you cannot sell a product without an image. So I think very soon you're not going to be able to sell a product without a 3D or a virtual product or an immersive experience. So I think it's a new medium, and it conveys information in a richer way, and that the customer understands better because it's more natural for them to understand. And I think every retailer should be taking advantage of it and merchandising products in 3D.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, it's removing friction too from the shopping experience. So as we know, consumers want convenient, easy shopping experiences. This is going to help them do that, and it's going to help create that connection between online and offline, as you talked about.
Yeah, exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's the connection of the physical to the digital, right? I think there's a little bit of that gap there. I think so. This fits right in that gap. You can produce this. You can take the customer on a journey that goes from physical to digital, and so or the other way around as well. And that is a lot more engaging, a lot more practical, a lot more effective, and I guess at the end of the day, the customer is happy.
Yeah, great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Shrenik Sadalgi, who is the Director of R&D at Wayfair, for telling us a little bit today about the company's work with 3D technology. Thanks for joining us today on the show, Shrenik.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.